My name is Robert Mitchell. At 64 years old, I believed I understood my son, Daniel, after raising him for 36 years. I was wrong about everything. August 15th, 2024 was supposed to be perfect. Daniel and I had driven to the Carolina coast for his birthday weekend, a tradition spanning over a decade. The afternoon sun blazed across the pristine sand as turquoise waves crashed rhythmically against the shoreline. My son swam peacefully in the ocean, looking as carefree as he did in childhood. At 6:25 p.m., my phone buzzed. An unknown sender. I typically ignore these notifications, but something compelled me to check. The words on screen made my blood freeze. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Maria. Leave the beach immediately. Don't alert Daniel. Your home and safety are compromised. Maria Rodriguez, my housekeeper of 17 years. A cautious, reliable woman who never dramatized situations. If Maria sent such an urgent warning, something genuinely catastrophic was unfolding. I glanced toward the water, where Daniel floated carelessly on the gentle swells, completely unaware. My heartbeat accelerated dangerously. Why would Maria specifically warn me not to inform my own son? I stood from my beach chair, attempting to appear casual despite my trembling hands. I walked toward the restroom facilities near the parking area, positioning myself where Daniel couldn't overhear. With unsteady fingers, I dialed Maria's number. She answered instantly, her voice strained and frightened. "Mr. Robert, thank heaven you called," Maria whispered, clearly afraid of being heard. 4 days ago, I overheard something horrifying. I was organizing the upstairs hallway when voices drifted from the living room. Daniel was conversing with someone named Blake Morrison. Initially, I assumed it was routine business discussion. "What did you hear, Maria?" I asked, my throat constricting. "They were scheming something terrible, sir." Daniel told this Blake person that everything would proceed perfectly, that you'd miss your return flight because he planned to hide your identification documents during this beach weekend. Maria's voice wavered slightly. "While you struggled with the paperwork complications, they intended to break into the house." The world seemed to halt around me. The ocean sounds became distant echoes. Other beachgoers' conversations transformed into meaningless noise. Break in for what purpose? I managed to ask, though I already suspected the devastating answer. "To rob the safe, Mr. Mitchell." Daniel provided them with precise details about its location in your private study. They discussed $95,000 in cash, heirloom jewelry, critical documents. They mentioned the break-in would occur tonight between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. when the house was completely vacant. Maria paused before continuing with the most devastating revelation. "The worst aspect is that Daniel knows the safe combination. You trusted him with everything, sir." I felt as though I'd been struck in the chest. I leaned against the concrete wall, struggling to process what I'd just learned. My own son, the boy I'd raised, provided for, worked tirelessly to support, was conspiring with criminals to rob his own father. "Maria, are you absolutely certain about what you heard?" I asked desperately, searching for alternative explanations. "Sir, I desperately wish I was mistaken, but after that conversation, I remained vigilant. Yesterday evening, after you'd already departed for the coast with Daniel, that Blake person arrived at the house. I admitted him because Daniel had introduced him as his business associate. They spent nearly 90 minutes in your study. Afterward, I discovered discarded papers in the wastebasket, draft documents bearing your forged signature, Mr. Mitchell. Reality crashed down with unbearable weight. This wasn't a misunderstanding. My son, Daniel Mitchell, 36 years old, the man I'd entrusted with everything, was betraying me in the most contemptible way imaginable. What devastating secrets will Robert uncover about his son's betrayal? The truth goes far deeper than anyone imagined. Keep watching to discover how a father's trust was systematically destroyed over months of careful deception. "Did you contact the authorities?" I asked, watching Daniel emerge from the water and stride toward our belongings on the sand. "Yes, sir. I filed an anonymous report 3 hours ago. They confirmed they'd established discreet surveillance near the property, but I needed to warn you directly. Daniel cannot know you're aware, or he might alter the plans and disappear." I inhaled deeply, attempting to control the emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Rage, heartbreak, disbelief, all swirled in a devastating tornado. I looked toward the beach where Daniel waved cheerfully, smiling innocently as though nothing was amiss. How could he act so naturally while knowing what he'd orchestrated? "Thank you, Maria. Stay observant and keep me informed," I said before disconnecting. I returned to our umbrella, each step feeling impossibly heavy. I'd have to pretend normalcy while internally collapsing. My son had betrayed me, and I'd have to conceal that devastating knowledge while feigning complete ignorance. "Everything all right, Dad? You look somewhat pale," Daniel commented while applying sunscreen to his shoulders. The concern in his voice sounded authentic, making me briefly question everything Maria had revealed. "Perfectly fine. Perhaps slight heat exhaustion," I replied, forcing a smile. "The sun is exceptionally intense today." My phone vibrated again. Another message from Maria. "Sir, I discovered more serious information. I need to explain about Daniel's debts. It's significantly worse than we imagined." I excused myself again, returning to the secluded spot to call Maria. "Tell me, Maria, what else did you find?" "After speaking with you, I discreetly searched Daniel's bedroom. I realized that's invasive, but I needed certainty before making such serious accusations." Maria paused to breathe deeply. "I found documents concealed beneath his mattress. Records of debts to underground gambling establishments. Daniel owes $45,000, Mr. Mitchell. $45,000 to this Blake Morrison." I closed my eyes, feeling the world spin. $45,000. How long had my son been drowning in that world without my knowledge? "The documents are dated," Maria continued, her voice trembling. "The debts started 10 months ago. Initially small amounts, $2,000 or $3,000 monthly. But in the last 4 months, they escalated dramatically. There are handwritten threatening notes from Blake demanding immediate payment or facing severe consequences. Everything started making painful sense. The frequent monetary requests Daniel had been making over recent months, always with reasonable excuses, promising investments, exceptional business opportunities, unexpected expenses with his wife, Jennifer. I'd provided money without hesitation, blindly trusting my son. How foolish was I not to recognize the obvious warning signs? "Is there more?" I asked, dreading the response, but needing complete truth. "Yes, sir. On one document, the entire plan is written out. Daniel promised Blake that after robbing the safe, they'd divide the money equally, $47,500 for each. With that, Daniel would settle his debt and retain $2,500. The plan depends on you reporting a common burglary without ever discovering your own son masterminded everything." I pressed my forehead against the cold restroom wall, feeling nauseated. The betrayal wasn't merely for money. It was calculated, premeditated, meticulously planned for weeks, possibly months. Daniel had studied every detail, exploiting my absolute trust to commit the perfect crime. "Maria, you mentioned alerting the authorities," I said, attempting to regain control. "What exactly did they tell you?" "They took me seriously when I mentioned the forged documents and specific robbery plan. They dispatched a surveillance unit positioned near the house since 4:30 p.m. The officers are in civilian clothes in an unmarked vehicle to avoid suspicion. They confirmed that if the criminals attempt entry, they'll arrest them immediately." That provided some comfort. The authorities would be prepared. Blake and his accomplices wouldn't succeed. But that didn't erase the devastating reality that my own son had orchestrated this entire conspiracy. The web of lies runs deeper than Robert ever imagined. What other secrets has Daniel been hiding? And how will a father confront the son who planned to destroy him? The shocking evidence continues to mount. "There's one more critical detail, Mr. Mitchell," Maria added, her tone worried. "Daniel knows the safe combination because you provided it 3 years ago when you made him your legal representative. He has authorized access to all your important documents, your banking accounts, your properties. If he wanted, he could inflict far more damage than he's already planned." Those words struck like a sledgehammer. Maria was absolutely correct. In an act of paternal trust, I'd granted Daniel extensive legal authority over my estate. I never imagined he could weaponize that information against me. When I returned, Daniel was checking his phone with focused intensity. Seeing me, he quickly tucked it into his backpack with a movement that was almost imperceptible, yet extremely revealing. Who was he messaging? Blake? Other members of the criminal group? Was he coordinating final details of the assault scheduled for just hours from now? "Hey, Dad, I was considering we could stay for dinner at that beachfront restaurant, Daniel suggested, gesturing toward a nearby establishment with an ocean view terrace. They serve exceptional fresh seafood. We can relax, watch the sunset, make this day truly memorable. Memorable. The word echoed in my mind with bitter irony. This day would be permanently etched in my memory, but not for the reasons Daniel was pretending. Sure, Daniel, that sounds excellent, I replied, forcing enthusiasm while my mind worked frantically. My phone vibrated. A message from Maria. Sir, it's 6:45 p.m. I just observed a dark van parked 2 blocks from the house. 3 men exited carrying large duffel bags. One of them is Blake Morrison. I recognized him from photos Daniel has stored. The police are monitoring them from across the street. Everything is prepared for when they attempt entry. My pulse accelerated dramatically. The plan was unfolding exactly as Maria had discovered. The criminals were already positioned, waiting for the designated time to invade my home, force open my safe, steal my money. And Daniel sat beside me, performing as the perfect son, unaware that I knew every detail of his miserable conspiracy. I discreetly checked my luggage compartment near the umbrella. I needed to verify something crucial. When Daniel became distracted by his phone again, I stealthily opened the side pocket of my suitcase where I always kept my identification documents. My fingers felt empty space. Nothing. The passport was gone. The physical confirmation hit with renewed force. Daniel had actually stolen my passport from his own father. He'd done it while I slept soundly last night, probably sneaking into my hotel room, rummaging through my belongings, taking the document with calculating hands, all to ensure I'd miss my scheduled flight tomorrow, that I'd be trapped dealing with bureaucratic complications, giving him sufficient time to complete the robbery. Looking for something, Dad? Daniel asked casually, though I detected tension in his jaw. Nothing important. Just verifying I didn't forget my phone charger. I lied, quickly zipping the suitcase. Daniel nodded, but I noticed his gaze briefly shift to the compartment I'd just checked. Did he know I'd just discovered the missing passport? Did he suspect that I suspected something? The sun began setting, painting the sky in magnificent shades of crimson and violet. Everything seemed so normal, so peaceful. Nobody would imagine the devastating drama unfolding silently beneath that calm appearance. Dad, seriously, you seem strange today, Daniel insisted, studying me with uncomfortable attention. If something's bothering you, you can tell me. You know I'll always be here to support you with whatever you need. The hypocrisy of those words nearly made me laugh bitterly. What magnificent acting. What absolute cynicism discussing support while simultaneously orchestrating the most painful robbery imaginable. I'm fine, son. Just somewhat tired from the sun, I replied, maintaining the mask firmly in place. Let's proceed to dinner as you suggested. I need something cold to drink. The trap is set, and the criminals are in position. But Robert has made a decision that will change everything. How will this father's calculated move expose his son's betrayal? The dramatic confrontation is about to begin. We sat on the restaurant terrace with a spectacular view of the ocean horizon. The waiter brought menus and Daniel ordered a bottle of premium wine, insisting it was a special celebration. Celebration. The words sounded grotesque given the actual circumstances. While Daniel studied the menu with feigned concentration, I discreetly checked another message from Maria that had just arrived. Mr. Mitchell, I found something else in Daniel's bedroom. Copies of your banking documents with signatures that don't precisely match your handwriting. I photographed them and am sending them now. I believe he's been attempting to forge your signature on various papers over recent months. The images arrived seconds later. I enlarged the screen, feeling my body temperature rise dangerously. There they were, applications for substantial bank loans, co-signer agreements for third parties, authorizations for international wire transfers. All displayed my supposed signature, but with subtle, obvious inconsistencies for anyone familiar with my actual one. Daniel wasn't just planning to rob me tonight. He'd been systematically attempting to defraud me for months, forging my signature to obtain credit, using my name as collateral. What do you think about ordering the grilled seafood combination? Daniel suggested, interrupting my dark thoughts. You always said it was your favorite dish here. I nodded mechanically, not really processing his words. My brain was working frantically, processing the complete implications of everything I discovered. My phone vibrated again. This time it was a direct message from the police using the number Maria had provided them. Mr. Mitchell, this is Detective Anderson from the Metropolitan Precinct. Your employee alerted us to the robbery plan scheduled for tonight. We have active surveillance on your residence. The suspects are already in position, waiting. We need to know if you plan to return to your residence tonight, or if you prefer we proceed with the arrest when they attempt to enter. The moment had arrived to make crucial decisions. I could stay at the beach, feigning ignorance, allowing Daniel to believe his plan was succeeding perfectly, letting the police arrest Blake and his accomplices when they attempted forced entry. That would protect my property, but it would allow Daniel to escape without direct consequences, at least initially. Or I could return home immediately, confront the situation directly, force Daniel to face the consequences of his actions as everything collapsed before his eyes. You know what, Daniel? I said, interrupting his monologue about some supposed family vacation he wanted to organize for Thanksgiving. I think we should drive back home tonight instead of staying until tomorrow as originally planned. Daniel dropped his fork, making a clattering noise against the plate. His face visibly paled, even in the dim terrace lighting. What? Why? We already paid for the hotel for 2 nights. We had plans for tomorrow morning, too. I remembered some extremely important documents I left on my desk. Contracts that I must review urgently before Monday. I improvised carefully, watching every micro-expression on his face. But Dad, they're just papers. They can wait one more day. We're here to relax, to enjoy our time together, Daniel insisted, barely concealed desperation seeping into his voice. They can't wait, Daniel. These are critical matters requiring my immediate attention, I maintained firmly. We'll finish dinner and leave for home tonight. I saw genuine panic replace the mask of tranquility on his face. His hands began shaking slightly. He fumbled for his phone, probably attempting to send an alert message to his accomplices. Dad, think about it. The drive back is almost 4 hours on the interstate at night. You'll be exhausted driving. It's dangerous, he argued, trying to sound reasonable. But his voice betrayed his poorly contained anxiety. I watched him closely as I slowly chewed a piece of bread. Every argument he presented revealed his desperation to keep me away from the house until his accomplices completed the robbery. Daniel, I've already made the decision. We're leaving tonight, I repeated with finality, signaling the waiter for the check. I saw Daniel clench his fists beneath the table, his jaw tensing visibly. For a fleeting instant, I saw something dark cross his gaze. Rage, hatred, absolute frustration at the collapse of his meticulously prepared plan. The journey home becomes a tense psychological battle between father and son. As they drive toward the waiting police trap, Daniel's desperation grows. What will happen when they arrive and Daniel's criminal conspiracy is finally exposed? The devastating conclusion awaits. The first 40 minutes of the trip passed in almost absolute silence. Daniel stared stubbornly out the window, pretending to admire nighttime landscapes barely visible in the darkness. Suddenly, Daniel broke the silence. Dad, I really need to use the restroom. Can we stop at the next service station? I recognized the tactic immediately. Another strategy to delay our arrival. Hold it until we get home. It's less than 3 hours, I replied without reducing speed. But Dad, I really need to go. I can't wait that long, he insisted, his tone increasingly urgent. Daniel, you will hold it. We are not stopping, I declared with authority that allowed no argument. 25 minutes later, he tried another strategy. Dad, I think the engine is making an unusual noise. We should check it before it becomes a serious problem. I didn't answer. I just kept driving with iron determination. My phone finally rang. It was Maria calling. I activated the speakerphone, knowing Daniel would hear everything. It didn't matter anymore. Mr. Mitchell, the men are forcing the rear door lock right now. The police are waiting for your confirmation to intervene, Maria reported, her voice agitated. Daniel froze completely, his face losing all color, turning ghostly white in the dim dashboard light. Tell them to proceed with the arrest, Maria. I'll be there in approximately an hour, I replied calmly, watching Daniel slowly crumble in the passenger seat. I ended the call, and the silence that followed was deafening. Daniel didn't say a word. He just breathed raggedly, as if oxygen was running out inside the vehicle. Dad, he finally began, his voice broken. I can explain. No, I interrupted sharply. There are no explanations that justify what you did. Save your words for the attorneys you'll need very soon. Daniel sobbed audibly, a guttural sound loaded with genuine panic. Please, Dad, you need to understand. I had enormous debts. Blake was threatening me constantly. I didn't know what else to do. I was desperate. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, restraining the fury threatening to explode. And your first choice was to rob me, to conspire with criminals, to assault your own family home, to forge my signature on banking documents for months. You preferred to destroy our relationship rather than honestly ask for help. The city lights began appearing on the dark horizon. Finally, we turned onto the residential street where I'd lived for 32 years. Police vehicles with flashing lights partially blocked the entrance. Curious neighbors crowded at windows and doors. I stopped the vehicle in front of the house. Daniel didn't move. He remained frozen in his seat, staring at the scene with absolute horror. Detective Anderson approached, showing his official identification. Mr. Mitchell, we captured 3 individuals inside your property with specialized tools for forcing locks and safes. Blake Morrison, 38, with a record for extortion and operating illegal gambling operations. I nodded, processing the information. Morrison confessed quickly, the detective continued. He admitted that his main associate in this operation was Daniel Mitchell, your son. Where is Daniel? The detective asked, looking toward my vehicle. He's right there. He traveled with me from the coast. Unaware I knew his plans, I explained. The detective walked toward the vehicle, followed by 2 officers. They opened the passenger door, and Daniel emerged slowly. Daniel Mitchell, you are under arrest as a suspect in the planning and execution of aggravated robbery, document forgery, and criminal conspiracy, the detective stated formally as an officer placed handcuffs on my son's wrists. Daniel finally looked directly at me, his eyes silently pleading for something I couldn't and wouldn't give him. Forgiveness, perhaps intervention, paternal protection to rescue him from this disastrous situation. But I remained motionless, watching him with no definite expression. Dad, please tell them there's been a misunderstanding. Don't let them take me like this. I'm your son, your only son. His words echoed in the silent street. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. I simply watched as they placed Daniel in the patrol car. 3 years have passed since that terrible day on the coast when I received Maria's message that irrevocably changed my life. Today is September 2027. Daniel served his full sentence, 5 years with no reductions. He was released 6 months ago and attempted to contact me immediately. Phone calls that I blocked. Text messages that I deleted without reading. One afternoon in July, he appeared at my house, waiting for hours until I finally agreed to see him for one time only. It was a brief, cold, definitive conversation. Dad, I've had 5 years to reflect on everything I did, Daniel began. There are no words to express my regret. I destroyed everything valuable in my life. I'm begging you, give me a chance to prove I've genuinely changed. I watched him without any discernible emotion. Daniel, listen carefully because I will never repeat this, I said, my voice measured and devoid of paternal warmth. What you destroyed cannot be rebuilt. Trust takes decades to build and seconds to demolish. You chose to dynamite our bond when you decided to betray me. There is no coming back from that point. But I'm your son. We're family. Families forgive, he insisted desperately. You were my son, I corrected, emphasizing the past tense. That title implies mutual respect, basic loyalty, fundamental decency. You violated all of those principles. Someone capable of those actions does not deserve to still be called a son. I walked him to the front door. Daniel paused on the threshold, genuine pain crossing his face. That's the consequence of betrayal, Daniel. Some damage is permanent. Some trust, once broken, can never be repaired. You made your choices. Now you live with them. He nodded, defeated, understanding the futility of continuing to argue. He walked slowly away down the entry path, shoulders slumped, carrying the weight of irreversible consequences. I closed the door and returned to my study, where I keep my updated will, leaving everything to charitable organizations dedicated to helping families destroyed by gambling addiction. Daniel's name appears nowhere in the document. Some betrayals are unforgivable. Some wounds never heal. And some sons become strangers who happen to share your blood. That's the price of betrayal, and it's a price that lasts forever. If this story moved you, subscribe for more true tales of betrayal and justice. Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have made the same choice? Could you ever forgive such a betrayal from your own child? Thanks for watching.